Shh. I'm gonna let you in on a secret that I've been keeping from you for about 2 years.
To be clear, Steve, is that your vision here, to have a master brand that encompasses?
Yes.
And what is podcasting?
If you were to start a brand new podcast today, what would it cover?
Hi!
How are you? Look at you. You look amazing.
Oh, sorry, wait.
But today is the day for me to tell you about my little secret and to introduce you to 5 individuals who are central to the plan. But also, I'm going to tell you how I did it, what I've been up to. Come with me. Ugh. I think I heard about podcasting about 7-8 years ago.
And podcasting, of course, is a concatenation of iPod and broadcasting. And what is podcasting? It's been described a lot of different ways. Download radio shows and listen to them on your computer or put them on your iPod anytime you want, which means that anyone can make a podcast, put it on a server, and get a worldwide audience for their radio show.
Radio is springing free of the regulated gatekeepers who've managed what you can hear since radio was invented. It's jumping into the hands of anyone at all with something or nothing to say.
If you were to start a brand new podcast today, what would it cover?
What would I do? Okay, go on. The fact is, I felt like podcasting was going to be a big thing, so I pulled a small team at my former business into a room and I said, we're going to launch a company called Cast Chain.
I think you said some things there which I've written down, which I think are very valuable contributions to this vision for the future. But yeah, I'll send you an email which is summarising the proposition per se.
Okay, cheers.
See you later.
Take it, mate.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Over there was a reason to start a podcast. Stephen Bartlett was a reason to start a podcast.
Part of the reason why I started this podcast, I ask questions that I'm just genuinely interested in, as like a young guy that also runs a business. And I remember at the time the rebuttals to this. I was told that there was no money in podcasting. That's the same rebuttal, that's the same objection that I got when I started my social media business. I remember being at Google campus and a guy called Gordon sat me down and explained to me that my social media business would never make money, and explained again the CPM of that business. And then there I was 6 years later, someone else telling me that the CPMs in podcasting meant that you couldn't make money in the medium. And I've just learned to ignore that, because the money follows the value. I think the lesson here is that if you're playing in a space where you believe that you're adding huge value, but maybe the world hasn't caught up yet, don't be deterred when people tell you that you're never going to make money from doing it, or that it's never going to work. Around that time I decided to launch my own sort of interview show, which was called Everyday Entrepreneurs, and I think that kind of sowed the seeds for me as an interviewer.
Okay, so this is the first episode of Everyday Entrepreneurs. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this, Brian. Call you Brian, I know you're
Fine, mate.
True Geordie.
Call us up.
Thank you for tuning in. This is a series we're going to continue to do on the channel.
And eventually I decided that I wanted to start a podcast.
If I was to start a podcast today, I think I would do things slightly differently. There are a lot of people that have great networks that they're able to leverage, and therefore there'll always be better, more interesting guests on a podcast than yours typically, unless you have some kind of unique niche or network. So I think if I was to start a podcast today, I would focus on transparency as the key theme and emotion.
And I had this idea called The Diary of a CEO. And the real question that the podcast sought to answer was, if you could truly see into the diary of someone who leads a really interesting life, what would you actually see? And I started those first couple of episodes. So I went to the Apple store in Manchester. I bought a £99 microphone, which was like a vintage looking microphone that they sold at the time in Apple. And I went home to my apartment and I recorded the first episode. I think it was at 2-3 a.m. in the morning on a Sunday, I believe, straight into my laptop using GarageBand.
So here's the thing. This podcast is simple. Every Sunday, I'm going to share my personal diary with you
And I want to give you an insight into what it's like behind the scenes, being an entrepreneur, the deep, dark thoughts that nobody else will share with you, and anything else that's playing on my mind. This is not scripted, this is off the top of my head, and this is direct from my diary. This is the Diary of a CEO. I'm Stephen Bartlett. I hope nobody is listening, but if you are, then please keep this to yourself. There was like a pop sound every time I said the word P. So I used tights. I didn't have tights to hand. I used socks and things like that to try and create pop shields. Those first episodes, audio is super bad, and that's because I recorded it myself and I edited it myself. It took me hours, and at this time I think we were getting 100 downloads maybe. I was very busy and I couldn't be very consistent with it because I was the CEO of a big company that was growing quickly around the world, and I was flying 50 weeks a year. I was living in New York City, so I was just super inconsistent. Some of the episodes, if you look back at those early ones, I would maybe release one a week and then there'd be a big gap, and then I'd release another one and then there'd be a big gap, and then there's one point I think where there's like 2 months or 3 months gap, and then I'd release another one. It's just because I was so busy, so busy. And I really enjoyed the process. It was like therapy for me. You know, like for today, the podcast is often described as like therapy for my guests, but when I was just recording me, myself and I, it was therapy for me. As soon as I left my previous company and took stock of my life, so this was about 3-4 years ago in 2020, I had left my company. I was no longer a CEO, no longer had any real responsibilities. I was in limbo. I was in professional limbo. I'd left my last thing, and I didn't know what I was going to do next. And I took stock of my life and asked myself a simple question, which is, if money didn't matter, what would I actually do for fun? And it was really clear to me that that Diary of a CEO thing, the interviewing, I really enjoyed it. I think other people found value in it. I felt it could eventually be remunerative. So it was the middle of the pandemic. I contacted Jack, who'd been a freelancer for me about a year before, and he just had a great attitude. He was like super hardworking, great attitude. That's actually the big thing with Jack. I just remembered this guy had this like great fucking attitude towards work. He was always down, and he was as down as I am. So I sent him some text messages completely out the blue. Purely because I thought it would be a good place to record a podcast. And I found this one place in East London, in Shoreditch, that looked like it would make a good podcast set because it had these big arches. So I contacted the agent, and before even like viewing the place properly, I made an offer to take that place. And then I said to Jack, I'm gonna take this place in London, I'm gonna go and live there, and I'm gonna record constantly. I remember saying to Jack, can you make a shopping list for the cameras and all the equipment? And Jack coming to me and saying it costs £5,000. And me going back to Jack and saying, Jack, I don't think you understand. I want to go big, go back and make a new shopping list. And he came back to me with a shopping list that was like 40 or 50,000 pounds. I think part of the reason that I did that was because there's such a thing as a financial pact, which is essentially when you make a big financial investment in something, the science shows that you're more psychologically bought into delivering upon it. So by spending 40,000 pounds on a bunch of cameras, there's a bit of a psychological investment in seeing this thing through. And then we're off to the races.
Draw the space. Wait a minute. That boundary isn't there. So everything looked different. Whoa.
And I think if me and Jack are both being honest, both of us learn together how to do this.
What is that? It sounds like I think it's a drill.
This is what people don't appreciate, is naivety ends up being your biggest superpower. It ends up creating your greatest advantage, because not knowing the answers means that you try things more so than someone that knows the answers. Our naivety really helped us with the early days of the Diary of a CEO. I feel like we tried to rethink things from the ground up. I was telling my friends about 4 or 5 years ago that the thing I'm gonna do, I was just referring to it as my last dance. My last dance in life would be starting a media company that I believe is serving the world in a positive way. Because I fell in love with podcasting, it became quite clear that that media company would be in the podcasting space. So when I started considering launching a network, I think the Diary of a CEO was about 2 years into its YouTube journey. I interviewed some really remarkable candidates to lead the business. Got all the way to the offer stage with one particular candidate, and then at the final hour, I had a conversation with my team. And I remember in that conversation asking them why this was a bad idea, and so many of them were silent. But after a few moments, they all revealed that it was basically too early. Diary of a CEO was growing so quickly, we were already trying to keep up with the rate of growth, and adding more shows at that time would have just broken us. So we put it on the back burner. We put it on the Sunday shelf. And myself and the team carried on with Diary of a CEO. The thought just kept niggling at me. It was not a case of if, it was a case of when. It was about 6 months ago that I felt the team were ready for that next transition, and that we'd built all of the methodologies, the technology, the systems, the processes, the infrastructure, and the know-how to successfully scale new shows.
What's going to be your next challenge?
The next big business that we'll be launching at the start of the year is the network. So what we've done with Diary of a CEO, doing that across 20, 30, 40 other different shows that we own the IP of. And you'll see some announcements at the start of the year about what those shows are.
But there will come a time when you get fed up with making money.
I'll take your word for it. Thank you so much, everybody. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage Stephen Bartlett.
Big thing for you.
I've said this for many years. I said that my last thing that I'll do is I'll start a media company that tries to help people think and feel differently. And the next big thing that we're going to be doing is launching the podcast network, where we have lots of shows, like 50 shows like the Diary of a CEO, and we accelerate those shows. So I'm excited to do that, and I think that'll be my last act.
Brilliant. Stephen, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
It's 11:20. There's so much going on at the moment in my world. So many businesses I'm building, so many businesses I'm investing in. I often wish people could see what it's like in my head, like with all the different things that are going on. It's almost like having lots of tabs open. And my day is like quickly rapid firing between all of these different tabs. I am launching a new company which is called the Flight Studio. And Flight Studio is going to be a podcasting network. What we've done with the Diary of a CEO and what we've built in terms of like the infrastructure, the technology, the data, the analytics, the software, the proprietary things we have, all of that is a platform to launch new shows. And so we're going to launch some new shows. When you start new companies like I do often, you're really looking to hire exceptional individuals, bind them with a culture that makes 1 + 1 = 3, and then set them a vision that's worth pursuing. That is the BBC homepage today. Okay, it is the 12th of October. It is 7:40 in LA. We're going to start a media business, and in 10 years' time, it will be valued at more than $1. I say dollars because it gives us a little bit of space. Hopefully, like inflation goes our way, and that's only like 100 grand. We will build a media business. 10 years, yeah, it'll be a $1 business. I have no doubt about that, zero doubt. The thing that makes the Diary of a CEO successful isn't like me being a good host or any of those things. It's this platform we've built that is focused on optimization, technology, artificial intelligence, experimentation, and then all the contacts and the network and stuff that's come with it. It's the system, the process, and the technology that have made the podcast successful. I'm not that good of a host, but we definitely have the best attitude and the best philosophy towards scaling shows, and that's shown up in the numbers. We now have more sponsors than we can deal with. So we have more sponsors than we have real estate. So we started thinking about this idea of launching a network of shows. We take the best performing guests we've had on the show that have the highest watch time statistics, and we build them shows. We have like people that have been on the shows who are clearly just stars. We can support their media, we can support their events and speaking related stuff.
But how far down the line have you got for branding all of that? It's all going to be under the diary of a CEO or something new. To be clear, Steve, is that your vision here, to have a master brand that encompasses audio publishing, print publishing, e-commerce, consumer product, live events?
Yes, strange analogy, but I think a lot about what Richard Branson did with the Virgin group. I've actually been designing this week something called the Flight Group. So under there you have marketing, media, you have our fund, which is the Flight Fund, which already exists. You have Flight Story, which already exists. And the network as well would sit under the Flight Media part of the group as well. That's kind of how I saw it in my head.
Where are you at on the kind of fundraising side?
Internally, we believe that it will be profitable from day one. We've got sponsors that will take a bet on us. There's kind of two approaches we can take. We can self-fund it, which means that I fund it, and we probably go a little bit slower. There's an aggressive route, where someone would, put forward some cash. Could be debt funding, or it could be an equity investment. And right now we're just having those conversations.
Thanks for sharing so much information, and it's really impressive what you've done, what you intend to do. Hopefully we find a way to work with you.
Likewise, thank you so much for your time, everybody. Really appreciate it. I think I've figured out the minute someone walks in the door and I start talking to them and have my little sort of preamble with them, I know fairly quickly if that my audience are going to like them.
Welcome in. Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm Tara.
I'm Jack.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Tara.
A bit late too.
Thank you for being here. Do come and sit down. You live in London?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought you lived in America for some reason.
I'm there like half the time.
Oh,
I
really?
don't live there.
What takes you to America? Is it just work?
When I changed career, I was in financial services, coaching in financial services.
Mm-hmm.
So then I started to get more like hedge fund work, and then you really want to be in New York.
Yeah.
I teach at a university in America. I've been doing that for 10 years.
MIT.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not a morning person, so it means I get to like wake up late, have a lazy morning, start work after lunch.
And when I met Dr. Tara Swart, I just knew that she would bang. I was trying to sign her to a podcast network that I haven't even launched yet. And it's crazy because then her episode came out. The rest is history. It was just, I think it was the best performing episode on YouTube of all time. And fortunately, I'd agreed a deal with her before it even got up to those numbers because I just knew. You're perfect for it because you're super credible, but then you're a really good talker, which is hard to find.
Yeah.
So that's what I was thinking. I enjoyed it so much.
Me too.
And let me know I'll give you my number. I want to continue this conversation with you.
Yeah, definitely.
See if you're interested in working with us. Yeah.
Cool.
So the podcast thing, I knew that from the minute she started speaking, I was like, oh my God, she's a neuroscientist. That's like such a great talker.
Yeah. She's also very like endearing.
Yes, so
You just really want to like
sweet.
listen to her.
Yeah.
My best guests, they have a couple of things in common. They have expertise and value, as I call it. So there's something within their message which is inherently valuable and relevant. They are good at speaking, but more specifically, they are engaging when they speak. They tell stories and they are warm, is the way I describe it. There's something about them that warms you to them. And I'm gonna add a fifth one, which is they have authority on what they're talking about. This is like another multiplier. Within 5 minutes of her sitting down, she had all the core components. And so with what we can bring to the table, it was 1 + 1 = 3. A lot of what I'm saying is news to some people in this room because I didn't
know you went back to that idea.
Yeah, we first had it 2 years ago. And it's just a couple of things happened recently where I thought, I was thinking you can make a company and put other talents in there, and we basically monetize it and help build the systems around these shows.
Does the previous problem still not stand though?
So
taking the focus away from the team.
That's what we need to fix.
Yeah.
You guys should be so well resourced at what you're doing now that you have extra capacity to commit to something.
Yeah.
It can't be taking from an already lack of capacity.
Yeah.
We'd have to hire the people before we have the problem to solve.
Yeah.
We can't have a problem to solve and then just turn to you guys and go, hey, can you edit more stuff or can you building a system in such a way where we do not lose focus is key. And I think the way to do that is to create a new company that's really well capitalized, has loads of money in the bank, and then to start building the team before we have a problem to solve. Do you know who one of the most successful demographics at dating are? Which demographic do you think are the most successful at dating? What age range?
I'm going to go older. I'm going to go like 50 plus.
Yeah.
Is that right?
55 plus, they kill the game with dating, with dating apps. Do you know why?
Why?
Honest. Super honest. But this is what the guy said to me on the podcast yesterday, was that they don't bother with the filters. They don't bother with, making the shop window look like something that's not representative of the actual shop itself. Yeah. They're very honest, very authentic. They are themselves and they know what they want. And that is the same as recruitment. It's a relationship. It has to work for them and you. So if you sell them on something that doesn't exist, unmet expectations. And when you have unmet expectations either side, you're going to get unhappiness, and unhappiness leads to people leaving. So, the first step in hiring great people, it's kind of like a 4-step process, I think. It starts with understanding the mission you want to achieve in the world, understanding the behaviors you need in your people to achieve that mission, understanding the values that you need to create that behavior, and then understanding the people and processes you need to live those values. So what's your thoughts on as a hire? And I posted on my LinkedIn, as I always do, to find new people. And I got this great email from this young woman called Christiana, who told me that her and a lady called Georgie come as a double act, and they were just two exceptional individuals.
This is nice.
What is happening?
What is happening? This is so
Here we
weird.
are.
Okay.
All right, let's do it.
Hello, I'm Christiana, co-founder and Chief Commercial Officer of Flight Studio.
Hi, I'm Georgie Holt, CEO and co-founder of Flight Studio. We had left the US in the summer of last year to launch our own media agency.
But then a gentleman called Stephen Bartlett, I don't know if you've heard of him before, posted on LinkedIn that he was thinking about launching a podcast network. Georgie and I were online quite late one night and saw this LinkedIn post and really didn't overthink it, just decided to draft a brief email and then that escalated pretty quickly.
It did. I think we shared the email and we kind of carried on with our day. It was about 11 a.m, I can't remember what day it was, and she knocked on the door and I was in a phone booth about to take a call with a client, and she said, Stephen's put a meeting in my diary for 3 p.m, and I think I was like, Stephen? Stephen who? She said, Stephen Bartlett. I was like, right, wow, okay, we didn't really again have time to think about it, and sort of 3 hours later, there he was on the other side of the call.
So we all know what we're doing here. We all know what this meeting is about.
Yeah, basically they're pitching themselves to be the founders of the network, right?
And they were so good on their emails. They were so thorough.
Yeah.
Unnecessarily. Like the first email they sent had a deck in it.
What time did I send this as well? It's 12:54 a.m.
By the way, we don't recommend working crazy hours. We're just night owls. Ooh. We just work. We just work late at night to be more optimised towards the night time.
Here we go.
Just in case that makes the edit.
Subject line. Dragged or driven, either way, we're growing the global podcast media industry. Growing the global podcast media industry, all caps, rocket. Then, no formal intros, no habituation filter, bold. Everything you need to know to make a fast decision. This year, we launched the first podcast media agency founded in the UK, Telling Media. We're also female owned. Smiley face with the sunglasses. In the press, megaphone. Ad exchanger, new digital age, so linked to some of the recent PR coverage we got from the launch of Telling. We have a decade of global podcast media experience across APAC, EMA and the Americas markets. Me, with an emoji, and my co-founder, Georgie Holt. Present company potentially excluded. Oh, we do a bit of a flex here. We are probably the most qualified people to add real equity to the scalability and commercial potential of global podcast media.
Wow. We were loving ourselves at 1 a.m. in the morning.
This is all dot points as well, which is important because Stephen said that he really liked the formatting. So if you ever want to get his attention, snappy intro, well-formatted email.
And flex.
So we just flexed, and then we use the phrase podcast media very intentionally. Audience behaviour is evolving and the opportunities for creators and brands is developing rapidly. In fact, we presented you capitals, as a case study today on the evolution of RSS into podcast media ecosystem. I mean, this email's really good.
It's really good.
There's more. We believe podcast media is the most ethical, attention-driven, story-led, growth marketing opportunity in advertising right now. $1 billion growth secret, and we can tell you why. We're pioneering new AI innovations to revolutionise the host read format and production process. And then the 2 eyes emoji, like curious. And we're unifying the power of podcast media with retail media, creating and expanding brand IP, podcast media, energizing fandom and building fan equity. And then curious, let's see how we could grow together, flex the Calendly invite. Book a meeting now.
And then they attached a deck. This was cold from a LinkedIn post. And then I responded, hey, how exactly do you see us working together? She came back with route 1, why us? And then route 2 is just like, you invest in our current business.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Good, how are you? Good. This is a fun plot twist for a Wednesday.
Sorry, it was super last minute, wasn't it? But that's just how I operate.
The meeting went in, we just said, look, we'll just be ourselves, tell them about us, hear what they have to say.
I was quite nervous. Under the table.
All right, well, I'll go first. I'm Georgie Holt. I've had a 20-year, but it's more like 23-year career now in media, advertising, marketing, mostly in journalistic environments. And I think if I could condense.
And I'm Christiana, so I have 10 years in media. I started my career in broadcast audio in Australia and then moved into podcast media pretty quickly, joining Acast, heading up the sales team where I met Georgie. So my background's really commercial advertiser, building sales teams.
And then we left our corporate roles, took the big, bold, brave leap to co-found our own media agency.
I met Christiana for the first time through a screen. I don't think we even met in person for 6 months. So that was in 2020. Christiana was sort of leading the sales efforts there at the time. Like, I'd never met someone whose sort of force of nature came through a screen in the same way, and I thought, wow, I think I've just met someone significant, and felt that they saw so much potential in that person to go and do anything she wanted to do, really.
Georgie is deeply, deeply motivated and passionate and driven by an unwavering belief to challenge the status quo and make things better in the world.
As much as you're willing to share in terms of what your vision is, we're really curious.
The Diary of a CEO is successful because of a methodology. We almost treat it like a piece of technology. We are just a science lab. What we can tell from the back-end data is which of those guests would make for a great podcaster themselves. We're pretty confident we can see the watch time, we can see the key replay moments and all of that. The platform can make someone a star, and when it does, we can capture that. I'm absolutely convinced to my core that this is a enormous business, the biggest thing I've ever done in my life, purely on the basis that we've created something really special here, and we all know that it's scalable.
So what were you doing at Telling Media, and what journey would you guys have gone on, and where would you have seen yourself in a year, 2 years, 3 years from now?
Building $1 billion podcast media agency
in the channel that we believe adds the most value to society.
The words we sort of use to describe media, we use it in the same way that we describe food. We talk about consumption, we talk about how someone consumes a media product. And the reason that I love podcasts so much is that I think it's the most nourishing media diet that you can have. And having done this for as long as I have, I want to leave an industry that still focuses on those important things. It still thinks about the type of content they put into the world and the impact it has on someone who's on the receiving end of that.
Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Really enjoyed the conversation.
Great.
It's been really, really
Lovely to
stimulating.
meet you.
Right.
They're great.
They sounded very confident.
I think what came across in that call that he was genuinely passionate about what he was doing.
And he replied, I think the next day he said, it was really,
Where was that night?
It was very important for me to meet you both to make sure that our values were aligned. And I felt when you were speaking from your heart, I felt that you were equally, speaking from mine.
Yeah, it was a good call.
I think that is a gift from fucking God.
Yeah. When you talk about
learning,
yeah, I think God has just gone, there you go! Don't fuck it, Steve!
You answered what is too.
Yeah, and I think they're thinking the same.
Yeah.
But it is crazy to think that one email has gone on to change the course of the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
We've gone on to now understand that I think there was about 25,000 responses. This is when I laugh that, I'm not sure Stephen believes in the universe or universal intervention, but it's hard to believe that we weren't absolutely meant to be here.
I just think that is a fucking gift from God. I think it's an absolute, I can't believe, I'm so happy I did that post. I don't think I could have if I'd spent 1,000 years searching for better people. I don't think I would have found them. So I really feel very grateful that these two people came to join me.
He gave us a brief to come and meet the team, didn't he? And just have a genuine discussion. I think spending time with that team was absolutely incredible to see the energy and enthusiasm and passion for this project, and that really came through in that room.
Take our podcast, for example. There's so much research that goes into knowing how to make that conversation great beforehand, looking at the most replayed moments of Ashley Walters before he sat in the chair. We know everything that he said that's interesting. According to every interview he's done previously, that's what Jem's team do a lot of. They'll look at Google Trend data, YouTube search data, most replayed moments on YouTube, every TikTok the person's done, tweet they've ever done, to understand, especially with experts, what is it that people are interested about. So we know to incorporate that in the conversation. The distribution network we have, taking that long form piece of content and packaging it in multiple ways across multiple mediums, including traditional media, our launch network of hundreds of different influencers who promote our episodes when they come out to draw people into the content. We do more views on the clips than we do on the actual podcast. I think there was one month where we did like hundreds of millions on the clips, and seeing those as content. And these are all actually great because they're monetizable pieces of content. So we make quite a lot of money on Facebook with the clips. Data science capabilities, everything is tested rigorous times. So you can see even on this recent episode that went out with Logan that I know you listened to, we got back about 100 different titles to understand what people would be most interested in clicking on. Like on the Logan episode, we didn't just test the titles, we tested how to introduce her. So we call her the Harvard dating scientist, the love expert. So we got the data back and we saw like, hey, I'd say it's a 60% difference between calling her like the love expert and the dating scientist or the hinge expert. And again, I think our thesis here is that you just don't guess if you don't have to. If there's a way not to guess about things, then don't. That's it. That's my thing. So over to you guys.
Very good.
You asked us about a long-term vision, and we genuinely think that the network could be the world's most valuable media company, and that it can be $1 billion business and have healthy humanity as its founding principle.
Our intention isn't to build a podcast network. Our ambition is to build a $1 billion media company. And there's a very clear path to that $1 billion valuation that we're going to take you through. Transparently, Georgie and I are at a point in our lives where we could work for any channel. There's a reason we choose podcast media. The Direct podcast has had a massive impact on my life, and it's that passion that ultimately fuels something as ambitious as this, as we know what it can do for people. But what I think is really exciting, if you think about, sorry, next slide. I'm giving CEO energy, Anna, that's your role.
It's spicy, no, we love it. We're like sisters, we'll get to that very quickly.
What's so exciting when we started to obviously, look into everything that you do is that you have absolutely dominated the supply side of the equation. But what Georgie and I have just launched is a podcast media agency that specializes in dominating the buy side of the equation. And the potential when you merge those together with all of your value adds of these pillars plus what we can bring to the table, This is why it's ultimately going to genuinely revolutionise the whole industry, and we don't say that lightly. It's something that we really believe. And in terms of when we say $1 billion media company, it's absolutely within our grasp. So this is total addressable market purely from ad monetization, and I would say very conservative estimates. Our disruptive potential across the US and UK is over 270 billion, because what is podcast media? Yes, it's long form hero content, but it's social, video, experiential, live. We have license to play and disrupt in all of these areas.
Could you describe each other?
Oh, I love this. You go first. We should have practiced this one. I knew you were going to ask.
Christiana is the most resilient, determined, ambitious, kindest, caring person I've ever had the pleasure to meet in my entire life. At the end of last year, I was like, I think I'm going to start an agency. There is such a big potential opportunity here. I spoke to you, you're like, I'm not sure. And I was like, I don't think I can do it without her. And then about 6 weeks later, she rang me and she said, I'm coming round. I was like, okay, why? She's like, I'm just coming round. And then my apartment doorbell went, she ran and she said, I'm doing it, I'm coming. And I was like, all right, we're going. And then we resigned 2 days later, pretty much, yeah.
What about Georgie? She is the most brilliant, empathetic person you'll ever meet. A phenomenal editorial lens. The best listener in the world. Georgie is listening, but not only to the words you're saying, the entire context and lived experience to understand who you are, and it's an absolute superpower. I have never seen anyone's ability to win the toughest agent in the world on a call. It's phenomenal. And she is deeply, deeply passionate about feminism and building a more diverse and inclusive world. And we do want to take down the patriarchy together. We should probably call that out.
And that's not anti-men, by the way. That is just systems and processes, structures that fail all of us. If anything happens, I want to leave it better than I found it. Is probably.
Love that.
Yeah.
Very nice. So nice to meet you.
Yeah,
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
A personal reaction. I felt a phenomenal sense of relief, and that's because I had just gone through what I'd say is one of the hardest years of my life.
Yeah.
And there's just been a series of, I suppose, challenges along the way, and I had felt like at that moment, and I really distinctively remember it because I rang my sister, that it was like this massive sigh of relief that it had all been worth it. And all of the difficult decisions I had made in the last kind of honestly, probably the 5 years leading up to that, I had made some pretty significant personal decisions that had a real pivot in my life. But you know, some really challenging times. And I remember feeling really overwhelmed of a sense of like, this is it. Like it was all leading up to this moment. That it was all worth it.
I think when I got the email, we both got the email that this was happening, I sort of felt a sense of a sort of another chapter starting. You know, I'm 44, I'm not 24. I've been doing this for a really long time, and I've always had this really, really important sense that women over 40, or certainly women hitting their mid-40s, that there is this concept. You're sort of on a down, you're kind of going down, everything's sort of ending, you're kind of making choices for an exit. That I would look around me when I was 25, and I still look around me now at 44, and like, where are all the women? Like, where are the women of my age and older who are in exciting, fun, fast-moving industries that are driven by passion and intention? Like, where did they go? I never wanted to go anywhere, and I also wanted to show that, you know, I went to New York at 42, I started my own company at 44, and I've started another company I started my first company at 43, and then this at 44, so this has all happened in my 40s. Like, I wanted to show that your biggest adventures are ahead.
Wow, enough said.
So this is our UK studio, and then behind there we have another studio. We don't want anyone in the room when we're recording. Yeah. Historically, you'll have a manager like shout out something. Tell them about Cosmopolitan. Like, I'm like, fucking hell.
Okay, so name.
Yeah, so I've spent a lot of time on GoDaddy, Cedo.com looking for available names. Flight Studio. Okay, that flightstudio.com is available to buy. Launchflight.com, flightshow.com, flightworld.com is available to buy. Flightcast.com is available to buy. Why did you cringe? You can veto, yeah, of course.
I'll just veto Flightcast.
Okay.
Particularly because we're joining, it's
Yeah.
way too close. So
Okay, fine.
Okay, ChatGPT.
Flight chat.
Flight talk. That was your first meeting with George.
We shouted words at each other over a desk.
It's important.
I'm obviously not a very good prompter. Pod vibes. Don't read it.
Flight cut.
Flight cut. Cut. It's interesting. Cut is good.
It's definitely going to be flight.
Yeah.
When I think of flight, I think of speed, I think of taking off, I think of movement, I think of innovation, I think of precision.
Adventure.
Yeah, I think of like those values.
Flight Studio.
I think the Flight Studio thing is the leading candidate. And studio is about creation in many forms. It's available to buy.
So Flight Studio.
Flight Studio.
Do you know what we should do? Get it, crack on.
Launch Flight Studio. Speaking of which, we also need to talk about
Timelines.
Yes.
Timelines, launch plan.
I want to move a lot of stuff into your plate. So all these conversations that I'm having, I want you to be involved in these conversations. So Dr. Tara Swart, Paul Brunson, so they can speak to you as well.
There seems to be a deeper why in listening to the Airbnb episode. He seemed to be really motivated by wanting a legacy, not just a...
I'm so uninterested in legacy.
Really?
So there's a few motivators for me. Number one is I just see, I'm like terrified by the potential that I see. That keeps me up at night. It's the reason why I've been like working till 2, 3 a.m. every day. It's like life saying you, look, here's what you could have if you try. It feels like it'll make the world better. And I think I also want to prove to myself that the Diary of a CEO thing wasn't about me, it was about culture.
How much access to the existing team do we have? What's their current capacity?
They couldn't take on any more.
Yeah, that was my assumption.
What could happen is the heads of the team could help both train and hire new individuals. And my team will be so excited by the prospect of doing more, but I can't have them lose focus. I actually would like you to figure out how this is structured.
So fair to say we have autonomy in the vision. You want us to really lead the structure?
100%.
Yeah, okay, that's good.
No, I really mean that. Thank you so much. Have a good evening. Thank you so much. Nice to spend some time with you. How long has this been on the market?
So we haven't, so it's an off market.
It's not listed, okay.
So we're launching to the market mid next week.
Air conditioning and heating and stuff. Is it difficult to heat space?
All brand new.
Okay, it's going to be efficient. And how many studios can you fit in? Yeah, you bring Diary of a CEO here. For one. Like a Tara, Paul. Even around here is a good size for a studio. And that's bigger than the space we're in now, isn't it? Wider? And that door there, is that?
So that's that fire escape you were,
Yeah.
And then sort of more floor above, and then roof.
There's another floor. Fucking hell, Jesus Christ.
It's really quiet, isn't it?
Yeah.
Good place to ponder, isn't it?
Yeah.
What are we doing up on this roof? Like, how?
Pondering.
It's on the ground floor, we can drive in, and then when you get into here, these ceilings are really, really high. Do you know what it is? It's the guy recording it is 6'7".
He also locked us outside for 8 minutes, and I felt for him so much because he was just like, oh my god, I'm with Stephen Bartlett.
That was Pablo then. I'm feeling claustrophobic.
Starved to death.
Squid Games, like.
Well, it looks nice from in here.
We're doing all my shit drawings, okay? All the answers are here, mate, so don't worry about any more questions. So you've got 2 buildings. This is basically a warehouse. This is my stable door, which you can like open and drive in. And this is 10,000 square feet, this is 10,000 square feet. I ideally want someone to take it all, but really what we need is this, because it's super high ceilings, it's got the pillars so we could separate it off. It's got a basement downstairs, showers and stuff underneath it. So we want to offer for this. Are you free now? He'll show you now.
Yeah.
Come on then.
No,
this is the studio space.
Yeah, so that's where you'd drive in.
Yeah, that's where you drive.
That's where you'd drive in.
This place is beautiful.
Yeah.
All glass. And it goes all the way round, but then it also goes up, so.
You're so sweet. You're such a sweetheart.
It's so amazing. Seeing everyone walk in like that is just so nice. Oh, we'll do it. We can do it. It's gonna be amazing.
Busy afternoon today, and I've just had a meeting with Georgie, who's the CEO of my new company called Flight Studio, which is our podcasting business, podcast media company. Find exceptional talent, give them their own shows, their own platforms, and do everything we can to give them the audience that they deserve, that their message deserves. That's what Flight Studio is, and it's coming soon.
Two things on my mind. How are we communicating to the team about changes in leadership? And then the launch strategy for Flight Studio and timings.
The great thing about this time of year is I typically do a presentation about the year to come. So we, I think, are expected to present the vision of 2024 to the team, and I think that serves as the best opportunity to say, here's what's changing. The DOAC team is still the DOAC team, but we're now part of Flight Studio, all of us. So this is, the DOAC team is one brand within Flight Studio.
We're going to press, and when are we making our first podcast? We need a studio to do that, and trying to pursue other avenues now to find studio space that we can start reducing in.
It all depends. You often get one shot.
Yeah, of course, you get one bite at press.
Yeah, we need to launch with a great story. So you've got me, you've got you and CB's story, and then the missing part of the press release is there's a name you know.
The everyman, yeah, the every person.
There's some name you know.
I think that was everything that was on my list.
Okay, cool.
Thank you, appreciate you.
We've signed 5 of my favourite people on planet Earth. We've signed Paul Brunson, Africa Brooke, Paul Brunson, Kristen Holmes, Davina McCall, and Dr Tara Swart. 5 of my favourite guests from the podcast of all time, 5 exceptional people that I think deserve a bigger platform and that have an important message to share.
Heading to
Don't give them the fucking address, Jesus Christ.
I'm new at this.
Okay. Yeah, just landed from Riyadh and I'm heading over to the office to meet some of the team. We're actually having a little bit of a team meeting this morning at a place that we're hoping will be our new office. And we're going to be talking about the future of the team and talking about how we're transforming into something that's a little bit of a bigger beast.
How are you?
Yeah, good.
When did you know?
5 minutes ago. Came straight from the airport. Oh, there's some stairs there, mate. Mate, there's some stairs there.
Go on, watch out.
Mate, there's some stairs there. Just be careful. Hello. Hello, how are you? You right? You'll be telling me she's emotional.
Oh my god, well I totally camera ready. That's alright.
Yeah, so am I. First of all, happy International Women's Day. Wanted to get everyone together today just to talk about our future, Flight Studio stuff. You've obviously all heard loads of words and conversations about Flight Studio over the last couple of months. So I'm going to take a seat and I'm going to hand over to CB and Georgie to talk to you for 10 or 15 slides, and then I'll jump back up as we go into the last half of it.
Great.
Over to you.
Okay, so you know this guy. When CB and I first... We'd emailed Stephen after we saw the LinkedIn post about launching the network. And then we had this amazing conversation, and then this email landed. And it was these words, and we were both like, shit. That is so inspiring. How can we say no? This is all of you, and this is all of your work, because you have made every core component of this industry that is going to disrupt and redefine it. This is all of your work in this room. And what I loved about this is that, Stephen's humble. That's nice. We've done this in our own tiny way, and the humility in that statement was exceptional, but it was the potential that he saw, and it was about the voices that he saw that potential for, and those voices were going to change the world.
Our own core values went into overdrive. Georgie and I are very intentional about devoting our lives to podcast media. We believe it's the most meaningful channel in the world, one of the only places left for long-form discussion, nuanced opinion and debate. And it's for that reason that this was so compelling, because it felt like Stephen shared in our vision that it's this channel. There's no other company in the world that excels in science and creativity. The global creator economy is forecasted to hit 500 billion by 2030. So when I say this is a team that's going to be generating billions of dollars worth of revenue, I truly, truly believe that.
Well, I've been thinking a lot about
what our mission is, and I think it kind of is encapsulated in this sentence, which is to inspire everyone everywhere to pursue their more fulfilling life, one conversation at a time. Conversations at the very heart of how we do what we do. We've made a real effort, especially in more recent times, to globalise our show and our audience, and this everyone everywhere bit I think is really important. I think it's important to have this as a kind of framework because it's a decision-making framework. When we're thinking about if something is right or wrong for us, does it fit into our mission statement? But I'll hand back over to you to carry on with the presentation.
So this is our branding. Looking gorgeous. See the F and the S there? And what we love... What we love is...
It's very meaningful.
This is all the team, this is all the world sees, but this is everything we're doing underneath. This is momentum. This is take off. Taking flight. Yeah, taking flight.
Exactly. Trying to close the circle.
All in the logo.
Reaching. That's it. Thank you so much.
How are you?
How are you?
Good.
How are you? Truly.
Really excited. Concerned that I've been working a little bit too much. It comes at a cost of there's a couple of plants that need a bit more water. And my relationship's one of them, I think.
Yeah.
So it's those things that I'm because I've been in LA for 3 weeks and I landed, went to Dublin, then I flew to Middle East. So my girlfriend, and then she's flying away for a month and I'm thinking, you can kind of, that's the only reason I was thinking, do I see Skrillex tonight? I need to see my girlfriend. I blocked off the weekend just to spend with my partner. So that's what I'm thinking about. So that's it. Always. It's all good. Good to see you. Oh my God, of course you look amazing, for fuck's sake.
Hi!
How are you? Look at you, you look amazing.
Just
Fucking
want to
hell.
say, wait, sock.
No one's even going to see it, but you know.
Wait, you can't see it.
Dragon's Den, this is what I need.
See it.
The sat down outfit, yeah. So cool.
It's for when I'm on the tube. People go like this.
Oh, and you need attention. You
Yeah.
So how do we pose?
I want this whole outfit.
And here we are. Here is his launch day, and I feel absolutely nothing. People won't understand me. They'll think, oh, what do you mean you feel nothing? Surely you feel, I feel focused on the job that has to be done. And my joy in all of this comes from the process. My joy doesn't come from announcements. I am focused on the factory that we have to build to be successful, because announcements are easy. Delivering exceptional work is hard. And that I want to deliver for the 5 people that have put their faith in us. I want to deliver for the team. I want to deliver for CB and Georgie. I want to do really great work. I want to deliver for the audiences. So I feel nothing. And it would be so easy to sit here and tell you that, oh my God, I feel so excited, I'm so happy, blah, 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 blah. But it's just not reality. I'm just really focused on doing a good job, and the hard work starts now. So, you know, I understand that you have to celebrate, because you have to like stop at these milestones, because else life is just, it's always running on the treadmill. So if you never take a break to like admire how far you've come, then what's the point? But for me, the joy of it comes from the journey. And I'm really not that bothered about announcements. This is probably not what you wanted in this vlog, but it's the fucking truth, so I don't know what else to say. It's just the truth. It's also like midnight, by the way, here, so I'm really tired, as you can probably tell. It's almost midnight here, so I'm just focused on it. We've got a lot of work to do. The hard work starts now, and if we don't do a good job, then none of this matters. And you know, the hard part. I remember Elon Musk talking about building Tesla. And I talk to Georgie and CB and some of the team members about this all the time. I remember Elon Musk talking about building Tesla, and I've got so many videos that I've sent to the team where, to make this point, where Elon says that building a car is easy. It's like easy to build a car. He says it's 50 times harder to build the factory that mass produces the cars. Now, building a podcast is not so hard. Building a factory that produces podcasts to the right standard is very, very difficult. And even like, I think it'll be harder to build this business than it was for me to build the Diary of a CEO with my team. I think it'd be much harder to build the factory than the car. I think it'd be much harder to build the network than the podcast. I'm proud, but I'm focused.